We don't live in jungles anymore, so we don't have to fight wild animals or struggle with each other for food. Violence and aggression are not new to mankind. The very traits that enabled our ancestors to survive against ravaged animals are now being turned into methods of destroying each other. The rage of brother against brother is as old as the Bible. The book of Genesis recounts how Cain and Abel came to blows in the Old Testament. You can't deal with a problem that you don't recognize. And violence takes many forms, and any type of violence must be avoided. Young children are extremely naive. They don't know what's going on in the world around them. They tend to think that all the people that are nice to them are doing good to them. There are three main points I'm informing you of today in the process of how to recognize abuse and what steps to take afterwards. Number one, recognize the abusive behavior. The second main point is to validate the behavior is abusive, and the third is confronting those involved. Now let's get started gaining knowledge of how to know when someone is being abused. In the book of Child Abuse by Tom Ido in 1995, it states, reports of violence against young people show the most child abuse is committed by parents, relatives, and friends rather than by strangers. Every effort must be made to stop violent behavior in our nation. And young people themselves need to explore avenues if they find themselves in an unsafe situation. In any event, it is important to ask for help and to know where to go for help. There are sources of help, understanding, and shelters for people that have been attacked and for people that have been attacking others to get help. A person who suspects something owes it to that child to speak up and take action. It's a responsibility. This brings me to my first main point, recognizing the abusive behavior. We must understand the causes before we can prevent them. Violence often begins at home, and everyone is potentially a victim of someone else's rage, anger, frustration, confusion, and fear. Dr. Carl Menninger stated in a guide to reporting abuse in 2001 that if we don't find a way to prevent the abandonment, abuse, and exploitation of our children, we will spend the rest of our lives building mental hospitals and prisons. A child specialist in this guide also stated that reporting is critical to stop the pain of continuing in our children. Don't just assume. Be sure to recognize if the action is needed to be taken. Know the facts and do not make false accusations. The second main point is validating that the behavior is abusive. Talk to someone who can help you figure out and acknowledge the signs for abuse. A minister once stated in 2001, I feel like it is a Christian duty to report incidents of child abuse in order to save children from further damage and so that the perpetrator can be given the needed help to stop the behavior. In Feeling Safe, Feeling Strong in 1984, Turkle says that every person, child or adult, is entitled to the same personal rights. So you have the right to feel the way you are feeling. Keep in mind that it would be much better to report a case that ends up not being child abuse than to overlook one very abusive situation. Prevention helps create a better society, one which places a high value on the welfare of our children. Kurland said in a book titled Coping with Violence in 1986 that to live peacefully and productively, we must learn how to control our anger into more appropriate uses. The important thing is to follow your instincts and to know where to go for help. Reach out to someone who will listen and someone you can trust. The third main point is confronting others and those involved without making the situation more violent. Remember, it is necessary to speak with someone that is not involved in the situation first. Don't try to take it into your own hands. Many times, violence in families is treated by families as normal. Deal with the witnessed behavior by talking to experienced others, educators, religious people, or even medical professionals can help. It has been said that evil flourishes when a man sits idly by and does not take action. Violence in the family is probably the closest to home, the most destructive, and the abuse that we have to cope with the most intensively. In a child abuse book by Tom Ido in 1995, research was conducted by the U.S. Advisory of Child Abuse, and it indicates an alarming increase of child abuse in this nation. A survey conducted by this board in June of 1990 estimated that the number of reported abuse cases have increased by 200% since 1977. It is not squealing to inform some concerned adult about an abusive situation in a family. Violators of any type of abuse can be helped before acting out of rage. Help is available for people who find themselves in an unsafe situation, and for people who find and see others in that kind of situation also. As we come to the review of this information on the reporting abuse, it is important to know that parents simply need to say no to their children instead of striking out physically. Feeling strong is more a matter of mind than of muscle, and everyone can learn to feel strong to help our world be a better place. Whenever people are at home, at school, or outside playing, they want to feel safe. And most of the time they do, but unexpected things happen. Child abuse is against the law, and it must be reported to the proper authorities. Sometimes being strong-willed means speaking up for your rights. It is important to recognize the abusive behavior, validate that the behavior is abusive, and then confront others and those involved. Children are dependent on adults, and when a child is abused, he or she is denied their security. And many people consider child abuse as a national tragedy. To start to deal with the fire before it spreads is the obvious course of action. In life, somebody has to blow the whistle to alert the referee. If there were no referee calling fouls and blowing whistles, the game would eventually deteriorate, and there would be no winners and no losers, and it would be total chaos and no fun at all. Not all cases get to court. Some abusers go to jail, some get treatment and get better, but most abusers, they walk off scot-free. So reporting abuse is important because every child has the right to grow up feeling safe in their surroundings. Intervention is necessary to prevent the repeating pattern of abuse in the families. For more information on reporting child abuse, you can go to your local SRS office and get a guide to reporting child abuse and neglect in Kansas. Thank you.